Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Welcome to our channel. Thanks for coming. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button before we get into this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So we are finished with the back of the house. We have shifted gears. We've transferred all of our tools to the front. And now we're building this over here, which is a little Juliet deck that was in ill shape. It had 2 layers of tile for some reason, and multiple thicknesses of goop and cement board and plywood. All that came off. We ended up sistering the joists and extending this little deck out about 12 to 14 inches, depending on the curve. It was a square little deck, and now we've turned it into a nice curved deck to match all the back decks. We have curved glass, the whole 9 yards. We're doing everything just the same. We're even waterproofing this little guy because there was some water intrusion into the wall and some big problems had happened, some dry rot. We've taken care of 98% of that. There's a couple spots that we really couldn't repair, but we didn't want to dig in so deep, try to get behind the stucco. It would have been a nightmare. So everything's good. And now we've gotten to the point where we've added the joist lengths. We put in our curve. We put a TimberTech Paint Pro 5/4 by 12 rim, outside rim joist on, and we've added all of our solid blocking for our Regal Ideas crystal rail. We've added little plywood sections on the ends because I had to. There was no other way to frame it because we extended the deck a couple feet on each end as well. We've mounted some plates to the wall, so everything's nice and tight. All of our surface blocking is in. For our field boards and for our curved surface border. So now it's time to add an exterior trim piece, which is gonna be for finish. Once that's done, then we can add our bladder and waterproof this little deck. So that's what the rest of this day is gonna be, is kind of getting that taken care of. Once the bladder's done, we'll tape it all up, and then we will be ready for decking. Let's get back to it and see what we can accomplish. Got it? Okay, so we have our outside trim piece on. Our waterproof bladder is gonna go to the outside of that first trim board, so that's why that had to go up. We'll Cortex that. Had a couple issues getting it in the corner, but it's installed now. And now we have a little bit of metal that's left over from the stucco that we have to clear. So we're using some carbide tipped oscillator blades to try and cut through the metal to get it out of the way so our decking will slip in to the area that we need when we first start laying our deck boards. So before we do the bladder, we need to cut that out of the way because our bladder is gonna come up the wall, and that can't be hanging down or else our decking's not gonna fit. And then we gotta try to scribe the first deck board to go in there, and that's gonna be a challenge. So I'd much rather cut away the wall and then go ahead and do our waterproofing, and then we'll be able to install our decking pretty quick. So now we have, the frame has been done, our fascia's on. We installed the same bladder system on this deck that we did on all 4 decks in the backyard. So we got that figured out. Now what we're doing is we're securing basically some flashing, but we're using the EPDM as our flashing up against the house. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a 12-inch piece, so the water has to hit this, and then it's gonna guide it back out 12 inches away from the house and drop it back into these joist bays, so the water can then go down into a contained gutter that's gonna be underneath this deck. So let's just say we're putting our first deck board. What I'm doing, I have enough space that I'm going to tuck the deck board in here, and I'm gonna run my bladder all the way around the outside of the decking, and then I'm gonna cut my bladder up here, and then I'm gonna run a bead of really good sealant from the door up against the deck board. And that's what's gonna keep it from leaking. Even if the water gets to here and it goes this way, it's still gonna catch inside of the bladder and end up being contained and not leaking into the wall like it has been for the last, I don't know how many years. Now over here, we have a similar situation. We really have to rely on sealant because we don't have any flashing coming through this stucco wall. We only have about 2 feet of wall to worry about. If I was doing 30 feet, I might cut the wall, put in flashing, and put in trim and all that stuff. But because there's only 2 feet on each side, what I'm gonna do is I'm still gonna install the deck board. I'm gonna curl this EPDM pond liner like flashing, and then I'm gonna run it up the wall, and I'm gonna actually seal it to the wall, and then I'm gonna put a piece of trim on the wall, and then I'm gonna seal that as well. There's already 2 layers of protection underneath this system, but in case any water gets behind here, it will also have to be caught and contained. There's a very low chance that this deck is gonna leak. I have 4 different layers of protection. This last deck that was installed with the tile didn't have any. I don't know if you guys saw this or if you've seen some of our previous videos on the back decks, but this particular deck had 2 layers of tile, not just one, and we don't know why. I think they were just trying to build it up to the threshold, and they just added an extra layer of tile and glued it up, and there was like a 1/2 inch of thin set mortar or whatever in between there. It didn't work out too well. So now what we're gonna do is I'll trim the bladder system up against here, and then we'll put a nice bead of sealant all around here. There's still like a rubber gasket right here. If the water gets behind the sealant, there's still a rubber gasket, and then potentially it could leak. But we think we're gonna resolve all the issues that this home has had in the past because of what we're doing now. And then over here, the old deck stopped right here, and then that's where the wall continues out a little bit, so it's a little bit of a jog. And then we're gonna run that piece of trim. It's like baseboard in a house, and we're gonna Cortex that to the wall. And then once it's Cortexed, then we'll run a bead of clear right up against the wall and the piece of trim. We still have quite a ways to go here, but we at least got the membrane done today. And then we will start laying the decking next, and then we'll install our crystal rail. And we have some really cool curved glass for the face of this deck. It matches exactly the back, except this is a much tighter radius. We have a 17-foot radius and a 21-foot radius on the back, but this is a 7-foot radius on this deck here. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Have any questions or comments, leave them below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon if you want to be notified when we're putting out new content. So thanks for watching and have a great day.